Hello students. So let's have a second lecture on the same topic, that is data analytics. So starting with our lecture, these are the, as I told you earlier, this was the first unit which we are going to cover. Starting with our second lecture, today's discussion will be about what is data, what are different categories of data. We'll also discuss about the statistics. What do you mean by statistics, and what are the basic terminologies used in statistics. Next topic of our today's discussion will be sampling techniques and different types of sampling we can do. So let's start with our lecture today. We'll first have an introduction of data or introduction to data. As we all know, data refers to the facts and figures and statistics collected together for reference or analysis. So what exactly data is? If we are talking about data, then what the data is? Data refers to the facts and figures. Data can be collected or stored, it can be measured, and it can be analyzed. Okay, anything which we are talking, for example, the roll number of a student, the name of the student, that considers as the data. So I hope we just don't need to emphasize more on data, because we are much familiar with the term data and what exactly it means. Coming on to our next topic, that are categories of data. So data can be categorized as the qualitative data and the quantitative data. If we talk about qualitative data, then it is further classified as normal and ordinal, and discrete and continuous data are the parts of the quantitative data. Let's start with the first one, that is qualitative data. Now, what qualitative data tells us about is, it can be defined as the data that approximates and characterization. It can be observed and recorded. Now, what does it mean? It can be observed and recorded. It means the data which we just collected by the observation, or by the recording. For example, if we are having a discussion, a group of people are discussing, or we are having a one-to-one discussion, or a group discussion we are conducting, something like that, that is a recorded version, or the one-to-one version. That kind of data is known as qualitative data. The examples which are considered in qualitative data includes gender, because it is not a numerical value. Any data which is not a numerical value is again considered as a qualitative data. So if we talk about the examples which are considered in qualitative data, then they may include gender, my city which I belong, basically address, my residential address. In residential address, obviously non-numerical value should be there. If I am having a numerical value, then it is not considered as a qualitative data. State of origin, again it's a non-numerical value. Citizenship, it's again a non-numerical value. Name of a person is again a non-numerical value. So any data which is non-numeric in nature, that is considered as a qualitative data. Now we'll focus on its types. As I told you earlier, it has two types, that is nominal data and ordinal data. Nominal data has no inherent order. Inherent order means we are not following any particular order, such as gender or cause. For example, let's have an example. If I told my friend to just go in, if I told any student that just go in that particular, in your section, and there are 50 students sitting in a classroom, just go there and just count how many of them are male and how many of them are female. Then what that particular student will do, that particular student will go and write down the name of the student, and he will just maintain a column of male and female. What he will do, he will just write the name of the male students and the name of the female students. So what that data is representing, that data is known as nominal data, which is representing no inherent order, that is no ranking of that data is being maintained. It is just randomly, what he will do, he will just take the name of any one person, come write down the he will just wrote the name, and he will just write the gender. So he is not actually maintaining any order. Okay, so that if any order is not maintained, then it is called as nominal data. And when we talk about the ordinal data, then ordinal data will maintain a order or a sequence or a ranking. Like for example, if I am going out for dinner, so if I went to a particular restaurant or a hotel, what they will do normally, when we go to a new hotel or new restaurant, they just gave a feedback kind of slip. They just told us to give us ranking. For example, if you're using a cab, so if you have used a Ola cab or something like that, then what kind of feedback they told you to give? They told you to give a ranking of 1 to 3 or stars about. So what that stars represent? Stars represent if you are giving them a 5 star, that means you are giving them a excellent mark, that you are satisfied with their services, with the drivers, with the car they gave to for traveling, something like that. So what 5 is representing? 5 star is representing the excellent, 4 star is representing the very good, 3 star is representing good. In this manner, your feedback is decreasing. So that particular sequence is an ordinary data, because you are giving a particular ranking or particular sequence to give your feedback. In a similar manner, if I am going to a restaurant, I will give them 5 star, 4 star, 3 star. So what is that? I am giving a percentage of my satisfaction. I am showing my how much satisfied I am with their services. So this is all data ordinal data represents. So if we talk about the customer ranking, then as you can show in the example also, 0 1 will represent good, 2 will represent average, and 3 will represent method. What is this? 1 2 3 is showing you a particular hierarchy, or if you talk about a particular order of ranking. So any data which comes under the ranking, or if any data is following a particular sequence, then that data will comes under the category of ordinal data. uh, Next, coming on to the second part of, or second type of data, that is quantitative data. As the term indicates, this data is simply any data that is expressed numerically. That expressed numerically means, as qualitative data is not expressed numerically, any data in which a numerical version is there, that is not counted as or classified as a qualitative data. Whereas any data in which a quantity value exists, that data is considered as a quantitative data. Now if we talk about defining it formally, then it can be defined as quantitative data is defined as the value of data in the form of counts or numbers, where each data set has an unique numerical value associated with it. Now just focus on the term each data set has a unique numerical value associated with it. Unique numerical value itself indicates that any data which has a numerical value associated with it is considered as a quantitative data. So quantitative data, you can also take it if in our school time we have studied noun and pronouns and different types of noun. You can also classify or compare it with the countable noun. Anything which is countable, like one medicine, or something like a jug of milk, a painting which is 40 inch right now, you can count the size of the painting. You can count the height of a person, that is again considered as a quantitative data. So even if we can measure, we can count the or measure the weight of a person, that is again a quantitative data. But quantitative data are again classified into categories that we will be seeing in this form, like discrete and continuous. Now these are the two main types of data which are considered in quantitative data. If we talk about the discrete data, then it can be defined as a catalogically data. Now catalogically data means it can hold finite number of possible values. For example, number of students in a class. Now if we are talking about finite number of values, then it has a finite number. For example, number of students in a class can be 50, 60, 100. It must have a finite value. So if we talk about number of subjects in your semester. So you must be having 5, 6, or whatever number of subjects you are having. So that is considered as a discrete data. That is, a data has a finite value, means limited value. That is a discrete data. Coming on to the continuous data one, that it can hold infinite number of possible values. Now when it comes to infinite numbers, we can take the example of a weight, as I told you earlier. A weight of a person, if we are talking, for example, if I'm talking about my weight. If I say that my weight is 60, now I can't say that my weight is 60, because it may have many variations like 60.1, 60.2, 60.02, 60.3, 60.31. So it has many values. If we talk about like percentage, then percentage, if you are saying your percentage is 70, so it is not like it is 70 only. You may have 70.2, 70.3, or somebody may have 70.3, some 70.31, 70.32. There are many possibilities in this case. So this kind of data is known as continuous, in which a number can hold infinite number of values. Like, I hope I am clear with both these terms, that is discrete data and continuous data. Coming on to our next topic again. Now, let's get started with another interesting topic, that is statistics. So statistics is basically no, statistics is an area of applied mathematics concerned with the data collection, analysis, interpretation, and presentation. Now, these four terms are very important if we talk about statistics. I hope so. We all have gone through this term statistics during our school time, or even in 12th standard also. So we are quite familiar with this term statistics. But whenever we talk about this term statistics, then it is concerned. Obviously, it is concerned with data. But whenever data comes, statistics also comes into picture. So when we talk about data, then these are the four important. That is collection, because as we if we don't collect the data, how can we analyze it? Now, we can't represent it graphically by using statistics. Now when we collect the data, the next step which comes, obviously, it is analysis. Until and unless we analyze the data, we can't represent it. Interpretation concerned with the conclusion, that what we are concluding with our data. Next, and the last part, obviously, which is main, the statistics is, or which is representing or presenting the data. Presentation obviously makes an important role. Until and unless we present our data, it is not possible for any user to get and to understand it. So you can I hope you are pretty familiar, and it is quite understandable for you that what statistics is. Now let's see what are the like there are different methodologies which are used to analyze and draw conclusions from data. Okay, statistics use different methodologies for this. So ultimately, if we talk about any example, you can see the example is, your company has created a new drug that may cure cancer. Now if I am running a company, company which is launching a new drug, and this particular drug is basically manufactured or created to cure cancer, then how I could conduct a test to confirm the drug effectiveness. Like, obviously, if my company has launched a product, the very first step I need to take is to see how effective my drug is. So if I'm talking about the drug's effectiveness, or the test I need to conduct to conclude with my drug's effectiveness, then it is we can say that this example, or this particular survey, can be solved with the help of statistics. So this was a simple example which is normally used for solving the statistics. Coming on to the different terminologies which are used in statistics, we'll start with the first basic terminology, that is population, and obviously we'll move on to the sample. Now population and sample are the two basic terminologies, or the very common terminologies, I must say. Whenever we have studied statistics, we must have gone through these two terminologies, that is population and sample. Now what population is representing, or what population is, it can be defined as a collection or a set of individuals or objects whose properties are to be analyzed. Whose properties are to be analyzed means, for example, if I want to make a survey on US, on 50 million teenagers of US who are residing in US, I just need to survey their food habits. Then what population will represent? Population will represent all the 50 million teenagers which are residing in US. So my population or my area of focus will be the teenagers of US. So that is considered as a population, or you can rather say that population is a subject on which you are trying, on which, or that you are trying to analyze, on which you are doing, want to do a survey. So our subject, it would be a population. Coming on to the next term, that is sample. If we talk about sample, it can be defined as a subset of population. You see, you can refer this diagram as shown in figure. The blue part, in which the number of people are showing, there are bulk of people, that is known as population. And the sample on which I am going to do my experiment, or I am going to do survey, that is known as sample. So the sample is marked with the red part. We can take the same example. For example, uh, I want to do a survey on 50 million people of US. Now what I want to do, I want to survey on their food habits. So what I will be doing, that 50 million people of US, all the teenagers of US are considered as my population, which you can refer with the blue part. Now what sample will represent, it would take my much time to go. It is not possible for me to go door to door and to do survey. So what I will do, I will just focus on 10% or 5% of that population. Okay, for example, if I have a 50 million of teenagers in US, then I would be not focusing on all the 50 millions. I will just take out or refer only 10 million of teenagers from US. I'll do my survey, and depending upon that result, I'll conclude with my survey. For example, if I did my survey on 10 million people, and I concluded that 10 million people on which I am doing the survey are preferring a junk food, that their food habits, about their food habits, that they prefer junk food, then what I will be doing, I will be concluding my survey that you teenagers in US are, or preferring junk food for their of their choice. So what ultimately it will result to, that my survey will be on the sample, but that sample which I chose should be in such a manner that it should represent the population. For example, if we take the example as in India, consider like if I want to survey a group of a bunch of people in India, that how many people want, are preferable, have a choice of doing online banking. Okay, if I belong to MP, if I'm doing like I'm selecting 10 or 20 100 people from MP, I'm doing just a survey that what the people want, that it would not go. What I will have to do, I if I am doing a survey on India, then I need to take 5% from MP, 5% of people from Gujarat, 5% of people from other states also. That sample will represent the whole population. So what I mean to say is, the sample which I am choosing, that sample should be in an effective way, chosen in an effective way, such that that sample should represent the whole population. So ultimately it depends upon the sample we choose. The more efficiently we choose the sample, the more efficient result we will get. So it's a game of choosing the sample, and obviously the population, or the on the population which we want to do our survey. So I hope I'm clear with this topic. Coming on to the next topic, that is sampling techniques. Now what sampling is, now we already saw what population and the sampling is. Again, if we talk population and the sample is, now the sample and the sampling term is resembling each other. That means the word sampling came from the term sample and from term population. So if we are talking, like if we are saying that what we are doing, we are retrieving or extracting sample from the population, and ultimately what we are doing, we are extracting sample from the population. Now this is a method which is known as sampling. So it can be defined as a method in which a sample of the population is studied we can't retrieve sample from the population until we study the population. We need to study the population in order to retrieve the sample. So it's a process in which the sample of the population is studied in order to get relevant information. Obviously, why we are doing this, why we are retrieving this sample from the population? We are retrieving to get a relevant information, or to get a important information which will help us to take important decisions. So if we are talking about the word sampling, that it is basically a process in which a sample is retrieved from the population. So sampling is performed basically to gather statistical knowledge about the population, because until and unless we know the knowledge, we don't have the statistical knowledge of the population, it is not possible for us to extract the sample and to perform a survey. So it is basically a method of statistically studying the population which will help us to retrieve the sample from the population. Now, the same example we can take of survey of food habits. If I just want to do a survey of 50 million teenagers in US, then I can do this by the help of sampling. I will just take out the sample from the US teenagers list. And sample, how can I take out? For that, I need to survey the 50 million people of my of US, yeah, of the population. In this way, I can just retrieve the sample or the important data from the population which will help me to do the survey. Coming on to the next further methods, like sampling methods. So now sampling methods are further classified as probability sampling and non-probability sampling. If we talk about the probability sampling, then they are further classified as simple random, systematic, stratified, and cluster. And now coming on to the non-probability sampling, they are classified as convenience, quota, judgment, and snowball. So in this session we'll be focusing on the probability sampling. Okay, we'll start with the first one, that is the probability sampling. It is a sampling technique in which samples from a large population are chosen by using theory of probability. Okay, I hope you guys must be familiar with the term probability. Still, we will discuss this term probability in detail in our further lectures. As of now, just go through the just have a try to understand the concept of probability sampling. Now it is basically a technique or the process in which samples are retrieved from the population. And how these samples are retrieved from the population? These samples are retrieved from the population by adopting the theory of probability. So coming on to the first category, that is random sampling. Now it is quite simple and easy to understand the term random. We all are familiar with this term random. What random sampling is? Now random sampling is the one in which each and every member of the population has an equal and independent choice of being selected. Now what does it mean, equal and independent? Means that the data is selected from the population randomly, and any person can be selected. It is not that like that this person will not be selected, or this person has the highest probability of being selected. For example, if I am conducting a oral test. Okay, I have a student of 20 students in my class. I'm just conducting a viva or an oral test in my class. I just went to my class and I just said that today will be a oral test, or just go through all the topics, and I will be conducting a viva. So it is a random viva. What I am doing, I am just calling the name of any student. I am just asking him to answer my queries. So in this is a random kind of sampling in which I am just picking the students randomly. I didn't told him that your viva will be conducted according to your roll number or according to your alphabets or name of the your name alphabet. I didn't tell them anything like that. What I did is I just call the name of any person. For example, if I said Priyanka starts with the alphabet P. So I didn't said it alphabetically, nor I took the viva according to their roll number. So it was a random selection. So this kind of method adopted is called as random sampling. So as you can see in the first diagram, first figure, there are a number of persons and randomly 3 persons are being selected. Now it is considered as a random selection. And similarly in our second diagram you can see there is a group of balls which are red and blue balls. Two kinds of balls are there. Now randomly out of the red ball we have 5, 2, 3 and 1. 4 red ball, 4 1, 4 1, 3, 5 and 2. 5 red balls I have, and what I did, I randomly chose 5. So it is not like that I have choose why I have chosen 5. Randomly I chose 5. Similarly in our next slot I chose blue ball. Now as you can see the first ball in my first row was 8, but I chose ball of the second row. So it is again a random selection. So this is what random sampling indicates. I hope I am clear with this topic. Moving ahead with our next topic, that is systematic. If we talk about systematic sampling, then it is a kind of sampling which is basically a sample method, which basically retrieves a sample method from a larger population. Like you can define it as a sampling type of sampling method in which sample members from a larger population are selected according to a random starting point, but with a fixed interval. Interval means again it will you can see the refer this diagram, that is of systematic sampling. Now in this diagram you can see I have chosen out of the population. I have chosen the second, fourth, sixth, eighth and 10th person. So how this members are chosen is basically it is choosing it by following a sampling interval. Now how sampling interval is calculated, it will change for every population and the number of samples. For example, the formula indicates that it is calculated as total population upon sample size. Now if you take the same example of 10 members, I have a population of 10 persons. I need to retrieve a sample from the population. So what will be my sampling interval? My sampling interval means 5 will be 10. Total population is 10 divided by, you can refer this formula, total population is 10. So my value will be of total population will be 10. If 10 divided by sample size. Now it depends upon the size I want. For example, if I want my size to be 5, since my population is 10, I want my sample size to be 5. See the size of the sample is again decided by the person who is doing sampling, that is the analyst. So if for example I am the analyst, I want my sample size to be 5, then what I will do, I will just divide 10 divided by 5. So in this way I will be getting a sampling interval of 2. Then what I will be doing, I will be choosing every second person from my list. So second, then fourth, then sixth, then 8 and then 10. In this way I am choosing a sample. So in case of systematic, the word systematic indicates it follows a systematic pattern of choosing the sample. So in this case we need to first decide our sample size. After deciding a sample size, we need to calculate the you can refer this formula. We need to calculate the sampling interval. And how I am going to calculate the sampling interval, as I decided my sample size, I will divide the total population by the sample size, and in this way I will get the sampling interval. So I am sure I am clear with this topic. Moving ahead with our, now this is the stratified sampling. Now, what stratified sampling is? Stratified sampling is the third category of sampling, in which it is a type of sampling method in which the population is divided into smaller groups or strata to complete the sampling process. Now, if we talk about strata, strata is nothing but a group of person or a small groups. So in stratified sampling, a stratum is chosen. We will first choose a strata or a group of persons, and from a group of something, whatever it is, we will first choose divide it into a group of many groups, and we will then form a samples from a large population. Now, if we talk about the strata or a stratum, it can be defined as a subset of the population that shares at least one common characteristic. Now, again, this is a very important thing. We can't choose a strata or any group randomly. We need to divide it according to one common characteristic. Now, how it is done, we'll see in this example. As you can see, there is a population, a number of persons are there. From that population, two strata has been made, as you can see. I hope it is quite easy. Sorry, going back to the, I hope this is visible. This is strata 1 and this is strata 2. Okay, these are the two strata. Now, if we talk about the strata, then it has to be divided by considering any particular characteristics. For example, if I have a population of for example of any Indians have comprises of male and female, then what I did, I make two groups. In one group, I put all consolidated all the female members, and another I just put all the male. So I what I did, I just created two strata considering the two common characters. The common characteristics were that in strata 1 all females will be there, and in strata 2 all males will be there. So I hope I'm clear with these two terms, that is what strata is and how we are going to make strata depending upon the characteristics. Now, if we talk about the just a minute, it would be more clear to you. Now, I hope it's clear. If we talk about the strata, now first step is to create a strata depending upon the characteristics. Now, from this strata, in our next step, what we need to do, we need to create a sample from the strata given. That is, if I have constructed two strata, that is, I have divided my population in two teams. In one team or in one group there are only females, and in second group there are only males. Now, what I will do is I will construct a sample. Now, what sample will represent? Sample is chosen from these strata, that is from group 1. I have chosen the sample. If my group 1 is representing female, then in sample 1 there will be females, obviously, and sample 2 represent the persons having sample 2 will be chosen from strata 2 having only males. Now, again, if we talk about the selection, for example, if in strata 1 there are 10 females, then who will be selected? That again represents a random selection. Randomly we need to choose any two females from the strata 1. Similarly, from strata 2 only randomly we need to choose two males. Now, this example I am taking 2 or 3. It all depends upon the size of the sample again. So if we talk about if we randomly say that two members we need to choose from strata 1 and strata 2, then from strata 1, if my strata 1 is comprising of all the females, then the sample which I will took from strata 1 will be of females, and sample which I will took from strata 2 will be of males. Now, this selection will, as I told you, this selection again will be a randomly I will, out of 10 female, randomly I will choose any two, and out of 10 males, randomly I will choose any two. Okay, so I hope I'm quite it is quite understandable for you to understand the concepts of stratified sampling. Now, let's have a quick recap on all the sampling techniques. Now, first we saw a simple random sample. Now, in what happened in a simple random sample, members were chosen using a method that gives everyone an equally likely chance to being selected. Obviously, since it was a random selection, if a group is having a 10 members, then all members have an equal chance of being selected. There is no priority. All the selection is not done on a priority basis. Coming on to the systematic sampling, it follows a systematic way of choosing a sample. As we saw, it creates a sampling interval or defines a sampling interval. Before deciding the sampling interval, we need to decide the size of the sample. So in this particular sampling technique, members are basically chosen using a pattern such as selecting every other person. Yeah, so it was just example. You can even see refer this diagram also. In this diagram you can refer 1 2 3 4. For first column is selected, then third column is selected. You can see a colored balls, that is first column is third column, and then sixth column will get, fifth column will get selected. So in this way a systematic pattern is followed for selecting the sample. When we talk about the stratified sampling, I told you earlier, in case of stratified sampling we just need to create a strata. What strata is, it is nothing but a group of person or group of things, whatever it is. We just need to create a strata, and that strata we need to, for starting creating that strata, we need to characterize that strata by a common characteristics. As discussed earlier, we created a strata having a gender characteristics. All the persons in a one group were of similar gender. That is, I created two strata. In one strata only females were there, and other strata only males were there. So in this way strata is created, and from that particular strata sample is created. Now if we talk about how sample is created, it is again created on a random basis. No particular sequence or any particular strategy we need to follow. So in this way you can even see the diagram over here. uh, so it would be quite easy to understand in this particular diagram. What is happening in our first ball is selected, in second column you can third ball is selected, and so on. So any particular we are first creating a strata, and from strata randomly persons are selected. So it was all about, students, for today's session. I hope you are clear with all the terms and all the concepts which are used in sampling. That's all for today. See you with next topic in our next class. Thank you.